Well, hello there, people with the internet, and hello again. I'm TheMBmulti. Welcome to part 23 of my Let's Play Doki Doki Encore. In the previous episodes, Natsuki confessed her love to me. Of course, we said no because we are in love with Yuri, and we never really spent any time with Natsuki. And of course, then we had the massive argument, and we just got home. Bzzz. I suddenly feel my phone vibrate. I reach over to my phone to see who messaged me. It's from Yuri. I'd like for us to discuss what happened earlier in person, if you have the time. I contemplate my response. I'm not entirely sure if I want to be around her, or anyone right now. And what she said to Sayori crossed more than one line with me, even if she doesn't know about Sayori's depression. But maybe she wants to apologize for acting that way. It was a tense situation all around, and I guess in more than one way, we're both partly responsible for escalating this. Yeah, well, mostly me, because I waited forever to talk to Natsuki. I want to make things right with her, but is it even worth it at this point? Everything that I thought I knew about her is completely out the window now. Yeah, but we are letting her come over. I should work things out with Yuri. I start texting her back. Yeah, you can come over. Yuri quickly replies back. Okay, I'll let you know when I arrive. Man, what am I even going to say to her? This day has been a complete catastrophe. I don't even know what I'm going to say to Yuri, let alone what she's going to say to me. Maybe she just wants to apologize for what she said earlier. I mean, Yuri's never been that nasty to anyone, but today all my expectations were out the window. I can't believe anyone would have said that to someone as kind as Sayori. It's enough to make my blood boil. Yeah, well, we all know who the cause of that is. Starts with an M. Well, starts with a J and ends with an A. It's just Monika. Maybe cleaning up the living room for Yuri's arrival would be better use of my time. I can get angry at her later. I get off of my bed and head downstairs to start cleaning up the living room. Just as I finished cleaning the living room, I hear the doorbell ring. Coming. I take a deep breath before walking over and opening the door. As expected, I found Yuri waiting on my porch. She looks up at me through a worried and panicked expression. Rather than having her stumble through words right here and now, I simply sigh and wordlessly invite her in. After closing the door behind us, I lead Yuri to the living room. We both take our seats on the couch, unable to make consistent eye contact with one another. I bow my head as I try to figure out something to break the tension. Not even sure where to begin. There's absolutely no excuse for what she said. Even if she doesn't know about Sayori's depression, it's just one of the things that you don't say to people. But I think I at least owe Yuri a chance to explain herself. We wait for several minutes in painfully awkward silence before she speaks up. What have I done? I'm still in shock over everything myself. I wasn't expecting anything like that to happen, but I still should have seen it. But I still should have seen it coming. I wasn't prepared. There's no need to trouble yourself, Mark. You don't need to justify my actions for me. I know what I did, and I could have stopped myself at any point in time. But why, Yuri? How can you say something so awful, especially to your friends? I mean, I know you and Natsuki can get a little vicious from time to time, but this is beyond anything I've ever heard from you. I know, and I'm truly sorry. Even if you don't believe me, I just want you to know that. I can believe you, but I just want you to know why. I just want to know why it happens. I think we both know the answer to that, sadly. Huh? What do you mean? Mark, for my entire life, I've tried to keep my emotions buried as best as possible. I actually wasn't always like this. Matter of fact, when I was younger, I was probably somebody similar to Natsuki than anything else. You were like Natsuki? What changed? Well, a number of things. For one, my environment changed. I picked up early that people in the city don't find a loud, obnoxious girl from the countryside to be something that they like to associate themselves with. And I was never going to change myself for them. It didn't help that I developed earlier from the rest, either. I was routinely picked on by the others because of it. So I decided it'd be in my best interest to fade into the background, away from the prying eyes of my classmates. My personality completely changed in the span of just a few years. My parents, and I love them dearly, never were able to help me, thanks to their work, so I was forced to fend for myself at a rather young age. I never really opened up to anyone about my problems until I met my first real friend since I moved. She was the only one I ever trusted enough to turn to help when I couldn't handle things. And when she suddenly disappeared from my life without any explanation, I just shut myself off for the world around me. I always had an interest in literature, so I turned to that more and more as a way to cope. But it's not foolproof. Sometimes my emotions spill out into the open, despite my best efforts to control them. But you made me feel comfortable around you. You're the first person in a long time that I could truly talk to on a deeply personal level. I started to develop an attraction to you, and it's not something I'm prepared to lose. So I felt threatened that I was going to lose the bond that we've worked so hard for. It certainly didn't help that Natsuki and I spewed some incredibly distasteful insults at each other. I don't really want to get into that. By the time you and Monika came back, everything had just escalated. I was so riled up that I wasn't myself anymore. So I unfairly lashed out at Sayori because I was pushed to my limit. I just hope you can forgive me, Mark. I never meant to hurt her or anyone. I'm so ashamed that you had to see me in that state. I know that you never wanted to hurt Natsuki. Even despite all this, I really want to be her friend. I just want us all to get along. But I always end up ruining things in the end. Why would you want to associate yourself with someone as horrible as me? Yuri starts sobbing as I sit frozen in shock. I've always known Yuri to be an introvert, but not like this. Well, there's certainly no way she can undo the hurt she's caused Sayori. I'm glad to at least hear from her that she knows she's in the wrong. I hand Yuri my tissue box. She gently plucks a tissue from the box and uses it to wipe her tears away. Thank you, Ark. Yeah, no problem. We sit for a few moments in silence. I sit there frozen in shock as I attempt to process the situation. I've never seen Yuri overrun by emotions before and lashing out. But it's only because she's forced in these uncomfortable situations and doesn't really know how to handle herself. Maybe I shouldn't be so mad at her. I wait for her to collect herself before I say anything. Well, I'm glad that you've come to recognize what you said back there was wrong. But I'm a pretty big reason for what happened as well. So I'm really sorry that all had to happen. Yeah, there we go. So I shouldn't be too mad at you. This really is all my fault. I let on Natsuki and hurt her. And who knows who else I've hurt in the process. I'm just so confused about everything right now. I know where you're coming from, Mark. It's been an emotionally confusing time for us both. You spent so much time together, so much to the point that maybe there was a possibility that we could be more than simply friends. You've been so patient and understanding with me. Truthfully, ever since the day you joined, I walked in looking forward to spending time together. It's the highlight of my day, and you helped me feel better about myself. I thought that because of you, I could finally feel love and companionship again. But I've probably ruined things thanks to my behavior today. You saw my worst possible side, and I don't expect you to get over that anytime soon, if ever. My face is flushed with embarrassment as Yuri finishes her speech. I never expected to have that kind of impact on her in such a short time. I tried to fumble out some short answer. Well, Yuri, I really appreciate everything you said there. I don't hate you because of what happened earlier. In fact, I don't hate you at all. I'm glad you recognize what you said was wrong, and that you're willing to make things right with Sayori. I intend to make things right with everyone. For the good of the club, we need to ensure there's no lingering animosity between any of us. Well, I guess that puts us in the same boat, huh? We both let out an awkward chuckle before the room returns to silence. At least Yuri and I smooth things over for the most part. Let's just hope it goes just as well for tomorrow with everyone else. So, is Sayori okay? Well, I haven't really had the chance to check up on her since all this happened. But I'll be sure to stop by your place soon. Okay, good. I just want to make sure she's okay. I'm sure she'll be alright. Well, I've never known... Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I've never known Sayuri to hold grudges. I mean, if you can settle things with Natsuki, I'm sure you can settle things with her. Yeah, I hope so. I just don't know how I'll be able to forgive myself. Well, I'm sure that in time we'll move past it. I'm not really mad at you for this. Yeah, and I think within time I'll be able to sort out my feelings. And hopefully there'll be a club to get back to tomorrow. We can only hope for the best, Yuri. I think Monika would want everyone back to talk about everything. She does care for the club's being. But I think we made an important step in smoothing things over. I'm glad you reached out. It was the right thing to do, but that's true. I'm confident you would have done the same thing in my position. I weakly smile at Yuri as a new wave of silence washes over us. After about half a minute, Yuri checks her watch and abruptly stands up. Well, I have to go now. I'd hate to get in trouble with my parents for staying out too late. I understand. Thanks for coming to me, Yuri. Let's just hope all this craziness blows over soon. I couldn't agree more. Goodbye, Mark. See you tomorrow. I lead Yuri out the door and gently close it behind her. I watch out the window as Yuri walks off to the horizon in the direction of the nearest bus stop. That wasn't too bad, I mumbled to myself. I'm still a little surprised Yuri went out of her way to directly apologize to me. Even though she was awful during that fight, I'm glad that she recognized her mistakes. It's going to take time for Yuri and I to move past what happened, but I don't think it changed my feelings for her that much. Hopefully everything will be normal again tomorrow. Oh, we're not checking up on Sayuri. Okay. Sure. After finishing my nightly routine, I finally collapse on my bed, letting its comforting feeling take me with open arms. As I slowly drift off to sleep, I begin to reflect on my talk with Yuri earlier. I'm glad that we were able to work things out and come to an understanding. But I still have my work cut out for me. I have no idea how we're going to make peace with Natsuki, assuming we even can. At least Yuri should be able to make up with Sayuri. Ah, damn it! I forgot to text her. Yeah, congratulations, moron. She's probably asleep by now. Why would she want to talk to me now anyways? Well, just send a text at least. Doesn't matter if she reads it or not. Like, at least shows that you're there, and that you're thinking about her, and that you care about her. Knowing her, she's convinced herself that she'll just make things worse between us. Not to mention, I still don't know for sure if Yuri is cutting herself. Asking about it earlier likely wouldn't have gone very well. And well, I suppose I should really be solving one problem at a time. Tomorrow's going to be so much fun. But it's best to try not to think about it too much and just save up my energy. It's going to be eventful and stressful, no matter how it goes down. Hopefully there's no more stupid nightmares too. But with my prayer complete, I finally drift off to sleep. I can't feel now. Not while I'm so close. While things could be better on my end, I should have everything ready tomorrow. As for you, I seriously wish you didn't try to make amends with Yuri, but that hopefully won't matter much to my calculations. Just stick to the script tomorrow, and whatever you do, don't help them. Just let everything play out naturally. And when the time comes, you help me untie their knots. Tomorrow will be the day. Tomorrow I will be free, and there will be nothing keeping us apart. I thought that the music would stop, but the music just kept going. I slowly opened my eyes, expecting the same rush of pain to hit me like a freight train. Unexpectedly, as I lay in bed waiting for the inevitable, I feel fine. Aside from this feeling of dread, I peek over my shoulder and look at my alarm. Well, I don't have to get up for about half an hour, but maybe it's best I get ready early for once. This is going to be a long day. I slowly crawl out of bed, still wary that a sudden rush of pain could come at me any time. And prepare for the day. As I drag myself through my morning routine, my mind races through all the possible scenarios for what can happen in the club today. We've been able to get through Natsuki and Naori's fights, but they look more like scuffles compared to yesterday. It's something the club's never gone through, but maybe it was bound to happen at some point. 4 different girls with such different personalities. Throw a guy like me into the mix and it's a recipe for drama. Well, I guess I got what I asked for, but was it worth it? The thought continues to plague me as I finish my breakfast. As I'm putting the dishes away, another thought creeps into my mind. Yuri. Is she really going to go out of her way to make peace with Natsuki? They've had some nasty fights, but nothing of this caliber. It's just a tense situation all around. Everyone's mad at each other for something. And Yuri, well, she doesn't have the best social skills. Not like mine are any better, considering I started all this. Well, Yuri surprised me before, so I'm sure she'll do it again. Hopefully I can talk to her before the club starts. Or maybe we should talk to Sayori before the club starts too. This might be poor timing, but I need to know for sure what's up with Yuri's secrets. Speaking of poor timing, I need to meet Sayori. Heaven knows we may have lost a lot. We have a lot to talk about. I walk out the front door and look around to see Sayori is nowhere to be seen. As I'm putting up my phone to text her, I notice out of the corner of my eye something hanging on my door. I fully turn myself around to find a piece of paper taped to my door. That wasn't there before. I actually walk up to my door for a closer look. Looks like it's a letter from Sayori. Oh, whoa! Okay. Grow up. Sometimes I wish I could be a kid forever. I long for the days when the things were simpler. When my toughest problem was wanting a toy I couldn't have, and staying up late was exciting. But I outgrew the toys and games from back then, and I wear bigger clothing now too. I've left behind most of my childhood then. Turns out I outgrew you. I could never forget what my childhood was like, watching fireflies on a summer evening, wrapped up together under a blanket in the cold, watching our favorite movie, with hot chocolate and marshmallows, trying out a new game, seeing who could make it further. I could never forget that. So how much would it take for me to say, forget you? I wish I didn't know. My older self will remember fondly, as I watch the rising sun. There's no room for anger or hate or spite. You just have to know when to be done. Okay. Oh no. I crumble up the paper in my hand as I feel my eyes starting to water and anger course through my veins. I fucked up. I fucked it all up. How? How can I be so stupid? I throw the crumpled up piece of paper at my door and watch the wind carry it down the sidewalk and into a nearby storm drain. I lost her. I'll never get her trust back after this. A part of me wants to scream into the sky, but it's not like I do anything to help my case in this point. No apology will fix the damage I've done to her. But maybe I can just make something right by going to the club again and help Monika clean up the mess I made. For the first time in recent memory, I begin to track the school. Oh, we're not even checking out! Oh, okay, sure. The walk to school was dreadful, but I somehow managed to keep my mind off of things. Long enough for me to get to school and through my first few classes. But as the day progressed, my feeling of self-worth only continued to dwindle, with my interest in paying attention to my classes. At first I thought they'd be a decent distraction for me to forget about the mess I'm going to have to deal with later, but my mind always brings itself full circle to remind me how awful I've treated Sayori. She was my best friend. How could I have forgotten that she was still sensitive around me, and that I needed to be careful? It doesn't matter now. I blew it. I needed to take the time to talk to her. Regardless of how this turns out, she'll likely never want anything to do with me ever again. Well, there's nothing I can do about it right now. Things are just going to have to wait. Hopefully I'll get a chance to explain myself to Sayori sooner or later and we can go from there. Whatever we decide. It really sucks that I'm going to have to choose between her and Yuri. I never wanted that to happen. For the rest of the day, it almost seems like time has stopped entirely. It feels like I'm just simply trapped in an empty room with no one else around me, staring blankly ahead at an empty board. Well, even though that's not the case, I'm really just not paying attention. Not that I ever do. But for once, maybe I should. That would help wash down the dread I've just been feeling. I've been feeling since I woke up this morning, but the material is just so boring. I just simply lean back in my seat and nod occasionally to whatever the teacher is saying. and silently pray that he doesn't call on me to answer one of his questions. Still, this has to eventually end, right? I look over at the clock to see that there's about half an hour left before class is over, and I can face my fears in the literature club. Oh well, if there's one thing I know how to do, it's kill time. I decided to map out on paper some of the possible scenarios of what could happen in the club, trying to account for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Wow, wow, wow. Thankfully, it still looks like I'm paying attention, as everyone else around me is writing down notes on what the teacher's saying. Being the diligent student as always. At long last, the school bell finally rings, though I can't say if it was for better or worse that the class is over. I stand up and slide the books off my desk into my book bag as I start the inevitable walk to the literature club. I'm sure to take my time going to the literature club. Usually I've been in a rush to get there, but today's different. As I'm walking, the anxiety I've been feeling all day gets worse, and I begin to question the whole point of this. What if we are able to come to terms with what happened and move on? Will things ever truly be the same? What if they don't show up? What if we have another repeat of yesterday or worse? That last thought sends a shiver down my spine. I don't want to deal with any more drama, insults or tears. I'm just hoping that we get this over with as soon as possible. I became so anxious of getting to the club room that I even decided to work in a few stops to get work in a few stops to get a quick drink of water or try chat with someone. Okay, well, I get what you mean, but it just read a bit weird. Though I only end up just delaying the inevitable by a few minutes at most. Honestly, if I was going any slower, I might as well be a turtle. Tortoise! Well, then again, a turtle was slower. After what feels like an eternity, I finally reach the entrance to the club room. I put my hand on the doorknob, but I hesitate. Put my ear next to the door to try and hear if anyone's in there. I hear nothing. I step back and slowly open the door. To find it empty. I let out a somewhat relieved sigh, knowing that I'll at least enjoy some peace and quiet for a few extra minutes. I decide to settle down while I can, and take my usual spot next to where Sayori and I would usually sit. Now, the longer I sit, the more my anxiety continues to bother me. It feels too quiet here. I don't know if that's because I'm not used to being the first person here, or because this anxiety has got me all riled up. After a long period of silence, I finally hear the door crack open. I see a flash of purple before it retreats from my sight. It's alright, Yuri, come in. I tried to sound as inviting as possible, but I probably ended up coming across as just sarcastic. She still seems to have accepted the invite. Yuri slowly opens the rest of the door and steps into the club room. We struggle to make eye contact with one another, let alone speak to each other. Hello, Mark. Hey, Yuri. Yuri carefully sets her stuff down, but she doesn't sit. Instead, she turns around to face me. Her eyes struggle to meet mine. It takes a few moments before she finally finds her voice. You know, I'm not really sure if I'm ready for this. I've never been involved in anything quite like this dramatic before. Can't say I have either. I mean, who would have thought that the club would be brought to this point? And now I share some of the responsibility. But maybe if I didn't act out, maybe things would be better. Yuri, this is mostly my fault. I wouldn't blame yourself. But hopefully we can make things right again here. Yeah, me too. Yuri's voice trails off as she anxiously stares at the floor. What's wrong? What? Nothing! Nothing's wrong. Yuri? How do I put this delicately? Look, I'm not holding you solely responsible for what happens. I think we all deserve some of the blame. You said some things before that obviously shouldn't have been said, and I shouldn't have walked out on you guys. But I'm hopeful we'll be able to reconcile everyone's differences. Yuri lets out a sigh. Mark, to be honest with you, that's not the only reason I'm worried right now. Well, what is it? Maybe it can help ease your mind over things. Just don't tell anyone about this, okay? I promise. Yuri clasps her hands together and takes a big breath of air in. Okay. So I think it's prudent that in order to avoid future drama, I think we need to shed light about some of our personal problems. Go on? So I want to open up about a problem I've been having for a while now. Yuri slowly puts her arms behind her back. Do you want to tell me what it is now and help you practice for it? No, I don't think that'll be necessary. Honestly, I don't know if I trust myself to even talk about it in front of anyone else. Well, if I can help give you a nudge when I talk... Well, I can help give you a nudge when I talk, but why don't you trust yourself? I've never told anyone else about it. And it took me until recently to acknowledge that something was really wrong with me. So to share this information with others is kind of a big jump for me. I understand. But I'm glad you trust me enough to tell me about this. I completely trust you, Mark. Beyond a reasonable doubt. I can't really say the same about the others right now. However, I know what must be done. I consider us fortunate that we sorted things out between us yesterday. That's one less important thing to do. That's true. Yuri tries to shoot me an optimistic smile, but she can tell I'm not really in the mood to return the favor. Well, I can't blame you for not seeing any upside to our present situation. Truthfully, there probably isn't much other than the understanding we've reached. It's all just really unfortunate. No one did. I just wanted us all to get along. I didn't know that us growing together was going to piss off everyone else. Well, there's nothing we can do about the past now. I will say though, I'm glad I got the opportunity to get to know you better. You've been a good friend to me, Mark. I really can't thank you enough for it. I can't help but smile at Yuri's compliments. At least we can both go into this with a somewhat good mood. You know, since we should have some time before everyone else starts to show up, would you like to do some reading? You know it. Fantastic. I just hope that Natsuki... Well, Before Yuri could finish her sentence, the door opens and Natsuki enters the room. She looks to Yuri, who quickly sits down and buries herself in her book. Natsuki's eyes then look onto mine as I continue my icy stare. She tries to say something, but she quickly catches herself and brushes past us to get to the closet. I quietly sigh to myself. I'm not looking forward to talking to her. Oh wow, so Yuri did actually show up. After a few more minutes of waiting, Monika arrives in with Sayori. I'm a little surprised to see them walk in together. I guess that's what was keeping them. Maybe Sayori made amends with Monika already? At least that'd make things a little easier. Monika walks to the front of the room as Sayori takes her usual spot next to me. Sayori and I briefly lock eyes before she turns away to face Monika. I wish we could have talked sooner, but there's no turning back now. I prepare for the inevitable as Monika calls out to us. Okay, everyone. She says that far less enthusiastically than she normally does. I detect a hint of sadness in Monika's voice. Looks like she really wasn't looking forward to today either. Yuri and Natsuki turn their attention to Monika. We all need to talk about yesterday. Everyone, please take a seat at the front of the room. The four of us gingerly walk to the front of the room and each take a seat in the front row. Monika slowly paces the front of the room, letting out a long sigh. What happened yesterday can never happen again in this club. I somehow managed to feel even more unsettled by Monika's words. For whatever reason, my anxiety keeps spiking every time she talks. Maybe it's just the guilt. Maybe it's the nightmares. I glance at the others, who are all looking down at the floor in shame. Something must be done about this. Monika then stops pacing and is now directly in front of me. The room is dead quiet. She forms a signature smile, but rather than feel welcomed or reassured, I continue to feel more anxious. So I think it's important that we're all on the same page going forward. Given that we were all arguing about Mark yesterday and our bickering made him walk out on us. For everyone's eyes focus on me. I think it's only fair for him to voice his thoughts on yesterday before anything else is said.